This is things you might not have heard. I am Jay Cleveland Payne, and I have in the queue for you news. 8 news stories from yesterday, days of glory and greatness, I would say. Good Tuesday, more or less. Well, on some of the stories, very much not so good, but their stories are all vetted by you as conversational stories that are worth talking about. That's why they're here. I don't just go through a list of things on a headline sheet and pick and choose what I want to. I go through a list of things that I've given you a chance to put on a headline sheet and pick and choose the best from those things. So from the top half of stories that were posted yesterday, 8 stories presented to you in just a moment. Politics, current events, pop culture, information, and just other events happening in the news. Now, you can see more about how we do things by going to our website as you feel the need to. This is conversationproject.com, and email us at the conversation inbox at gmail.com for your comments, concerns, and all complaints. We're talking some Israel, big Israel stuff. We're talking Sean Combs, John Amos, which becomes even more interesting of a story. We try to give him his flowers and realize we're late in that as well. Plus, the big story of the thing that happened last night. We'll get that off the bat. But let's remind you, just in case you don't know, or I have not said it yet, today happens to be Wednesday, the 2nd of October, 2024. These stories are in no particular order. This is sort of how they kind of came about, which ones seem more important, which ones made the most impact for the story that we're going to tell today, the stories, I guess. And we'll wrap up with a mea culpa, an update to a story that we had to do yesterday because we all got bamboozled. Let's go to headline number 1 this morning. The biggest thing going forward is the U.S. presidential election, whether you want to say it or not. Yes, war in Israel, Gaza, all that stuff may trigger some very serious international things. But a lot of these things are hinging on what we do here, U.S., for us, U.S. Vance and Walz held their vice presidential debate last night, and both candidates talked about their new future going forward. And it's one of those, what the hell just happened things, but not like the first debate with Trump and with Biden, where it was like, what the hell is wrong with Biden? Or the second debate with Trump and Harris, where it's like, what the hell is wrong with Trump? It was like these guys showed up and had a healthy debate. In fact, there's a lot of complimenting each other and agreeing with each other and supporting each other along the way. And they didn't bring up dogs and cats being eaten by Haitians or anything like that. Nothing crazy happened last night. No weird exchanges, a couple of back and forths, and one point where they had to shut the mics off because they just wouldn't shut up. We'll give props to the moderators on this one for doing that. And of course, saying we had a lot of stuff to get to. A lot, because like I said, lots to get to. But over the time, and we had last night with Vance and Walz and Vance, new futures emphasizing different paths towards the country. Now, it's amazing, even though we don't really know Walz and don't really trust Vance, why these two guys, why younger people like this, and they're 2 white guys, can't be on the heads of the tickets as opposed to Donald Trump, Joe Biden, going forward. Kamala Harris is sort of a consolation prize because Joe Biden essentially dropped out at the last minute. But essentially, instead of 2 70-year-old guys, these are 2, I guess, Vance maybe late 30s, maybe 40s. Walz is 50-ish or so. 2 regular-sized guys in a regular-sized timeline. Why aren't they running for stuff? They spoke on technology, economics, social reform, sustainability. They talked about things in a non-shouting manner. And they didn't make funny faces at each other or sort of throw out things like that. It's an interesting. This is probably the last debate we'll have going forward. And unfortunately, it was the surrogates, the vice president folks, that did the better job in trying to explain their sides. Now, most people are calling this a draw. Maybe Vance won because Vance wasn't so creepy, but Walz wasn't so much out of place, but didn't really hit the punches that he thought he should hit, or we thought he should hit. So your mileage may vary on this debate, but what we do know is this was an actual debate. This was good actual recourse. You don't have to agree with anything they said. You can call each other's liars if you want to, but this is how debates are supposed to go. This is literally how they're supposed to look. Other than, shutting out their mics so they wouldn't shut up. This is how a debate should work. And the other guys running should do one more debate and take this in consideration. If I know one of those guys, well, at least one of them won't, and the other one will do quips against it. So for the show part, Harris and Trump will do a great show. For the debate part, we shall see. The other very large story, and what's interesting about this one, we had like 3 or 4 different Israel attack stories. There was a shooting attack, that was on, we posted earlier on that we thought we were going to talk about this morning. But as I came out of a meeting late and got prepared for the debate going forward, I heard about this attack, and it was dumbfounding in a lot of senses. And this is where we're really looking at what's going to happen in the region. Israel vows to retaliate after Iran launches unprecedented missile attacks. What happened? Israel launched attacks straight from, or Iran launched attacks straight onto Israel with missiles trying to attack some facilities, mostly targeting military facilities. But you know how these things work. And what happened was Iran, and with the help of some U.S. Technology, was able to basically hold it back. But this is, of course, coming off the heels of the Hezbollah leaders' assassinations, many of them. And, you know, when you're blowing up pagers and walkie talkies to kill your enemies. And, of course, the ongoing stuff that is Hamas. And that's just all sorts of insanity. Today is the 2nd of October, the 1 year anniversary of the attack coming up this weekend. And we have nothing to show for it but more strife, more death, more destruction, and no answers to even why the whole thing happens. Benjamin Netanyahu, the prime minister of Israel, is calling for a strong response, and the IDF essentially doing what they're going to do to strike down, strike back, strike at Iran and all of its enemies. This is getting big. This is getting hot. This is getting contentious, and we all need to pay attention. You may think that being a global power is not a big deal, but when the global powers are doing things like, when the globals are doing things like this, being a global power means you have some influence, you have some say, and sometimes you have a big stick to walk around and remind folks that you have that big stick and they should back off. This one we are definitely watching. Yesterday's teaser story, and we'll talk about that at the end of the headlines when we talk about how we get stories into the queue, how stories into this thing, was a story in Arkansas. And Arkansas is suing YouTube for mental health issues for children and some folks. We're not talking about today, so look that up on your own and you see that's interesting. It may pick up some steam going forward, but you'll see that one going later on if it comes to the head. Really big news from Arkansas yesterday was this one. A suspect was ID'd in the disappearance of Morgan Nick, the 6-year-old Arkansas girl who vanished in 1995. It's taken almost 30 years to get some sort of break into the case. And Morgan Nick is the person we're named after, the Morgan Nick alerts for missing children, a legacy that her parents wish they didn't have to live up to because they wish they had their daughter with them. And now we know that the 6-year-old girl was abducted at the Arkansas Little League game back in 95. We know that DNA testing has recently linked her to a man named Billy Jack Links, who died in prison, being locked up for some other thing. So hair was found in Links' truck that matched Morgan Nick's DNA, leading investigators to identify him as a suspect. Links has been previously convicted on separate child-related crimes back in 1995, and this happened just weeks after Morgan Nick's disappearance. New evidence is breakthrough in the nearly 30-year-old case. Sometimes it takes a lot of time to get to an answer. 30 years. It's a lot of time for something like this. But now they have a lead. Unfortunately, they can't chase that lead down because the man who's suspected in the crime has already passed away. I guess the only solace is he passed away in prison for similar crimes. We hope that some actual resolution comes to the family because they have been waiting for this for a very, very long time. Transition to this next story is impossible, but we put them together because we want to get these things done for the first half of the story, so we can get the more things that are more lighter, mostly in the second half. But we want to get the heavy stuff out on top. Sean Combs is accused of sexually abusing 120 people, including 25 minors. Wherever you went to the story was the same, except the headlines changed to different levels of severity. And hope we don't get any sort of E ratings because we hadn't hit the 10-minute mark yet with going to a story like this one. But music mogul Sean Diddy Combs is facing 120 individual allegations of sexual abuse, including 25 minors in the process. We didn't really know about that until now. Going forward, it's, of course, decades of time. One victim claiming to have been as young as 9 years old at the time of the assault. Accusations were being made public by Texas lawyer Tony Busby during a press conference where he described his claims as gut-wrenching. Cases are part of the series of ongoing lawsuits, obviously lots of lawsuits, that bring further scrutiny to Combs' past and his behavior in the industry of entertainment and music. There really is no commentary you can give to this that gives us justice. 120 people over the course of many, many years, some of them, 25 of them, a big chunk of them being people underage, is a bad thing. And while we say allegedly a lot of times because you don't know anything till convictions, the actual pattern we're seeing with Diddy here is ridiculous. This is going to play out extremely publicly, extremely painfully. And we're going to learn way so much about this one. Right now, we're seeing a lot of comparisons to Sean Combs, to R. Kelly, Sean Combs, to Harvey Weinstein, all those things going back and forth. And they are probably apt to be said in what's going on. We have to believe he's innocent until proven guilty. We have to see if all 120 of these cases are actual cases. You know, when some of these things happen, sometimes people do jump in and bandwagon on these things. That is actual reality. But the fact that we're bringing up numbers like this and cases like this and issues like this is just so gut wrenching. And just, I mean, gut wrenching is the only word for it, that we have to sort of check ourselves in the process. We definitely need a palate cleanser here. So we're pausing for a moment to ask you, even if the news we have is distressing, sometimes it's about that. If we need you to like, share, and subscribe to the work we're doing. We need more people in the conversation. And so we need your help to share it with the world. Literally share the stories, share the videos, share our podcast with people that you know and love. Maybe some you don't like so much, if you will, but get more people who are willing to engage in conversation, because this podcast, this platform, this channel, the whole Conversation Project is not just about me yapping to microphones. That's part of it. The real part is me having conversations with people who want to talk about things. And sometimes people who just want to yell out and troll, because sometimes a good conversation with a good troll makes a better conversation. So share what you're seeing with many folks. Like it so we know what's hitting well and what's not hitting so well, and other people can see the social proof. It needs social proof a lot of times. People need to see that something is worthy of viewing. So we need that help. And if you're not subscribed to these things, make sure you're subscribing. Hit the notification and wherever you're using it so you can see what we're out there, because we know social media does a hard time of telling people what people want to see. But subscribe so we're in your main feed, and when you check to see what's out there that's popped up. I check my subscription feed a couple times a day for things to see what actually is new and popping up. And, you know, in my fake YouTube channels, I see myself. So we want you to do the same thing. Subscribe to our emails, subscribe to our email newsletter, which is really important. Subscribe to our podcast, wherever your pods are cast, or if you'd like to have them. And we're on various platforms: TikTok, X, Facebook, YouTube, various video platforms, whichever one's best for you. Subscribe so we can make sure we're getting our news, which is the world's news, into your hands. Back to the news. We're going to go a little bit lighter and a whole lot of entertainment stuff in the last batch of stories. So bear with me. These may not be the most important, but these are very interesting and will make a big difference in some ways. A lot of them in your pocketbook. Pocketbook issues for Mr. Pras, who is one of the Fugees, along with Lauryn Hill and Wyclef Jean. Pras Michelle is suing Fugee co-founder and former friend Lauryn Hill because the tour blew up because she's crazy. My words. Lauryn Hill is actually responding to the Fugees bandmate Pras suing her, calling it baseless and full of false claims. The breach of contract and fraud are essentially what is in the lawsuit. Hill strongly denies the allegations and says they're unwarranted attacks. In her statement, Hill clarified that Pras had received advance payments and that the lawsuit omits critical details. Facts make a difference. She emphasized that the claims are not only unfounded, but also misrepresent the facts surrounding the professional relationship. The legal dispute between the two longtime collaborators has drawn significant media attention due to the history of the co-founders as Fugees. Co-founders as great musicians and co-founders as business people who fight a lot. Because the Fugees, while revolutionary back in my day, became not so revolutionary as they just started fighting over money pretty quickly after money became a thing. Lauryn Hill being the biggest one to blow out from the group, and then Wyclef Jean essentially as well. And then there was Pras Michelle, who did some minor things but had issues with the people he worked with, some of them really, really bad people, and never got the real recognition, the real big push that the other two got. And so part of that is money, and Fugees should bring back with a nostalgia tour that should bring money, although Lauryn Hill says he got money up front, so he shouldn't be so mad about it. Money up front, ticket prices. Oasis has concerts coming in the summer. I'm telling you, it's not going to happen. Meanwhile, they're doing their best to make it happen by eliminating the mistakes that many other people have by omitting Ticketmaster from their prop platform and their dynamic pricing that working for their North American tour. So when they come over here, they ain't using Ticketmaster. The dynamic pricing model for Ticketmaster in North America is terrible. Essentially, everybody goes to buy a ticket at the same moment, and if everybody's buying a ticket, prices triple, and then the system crashes. and it's all sort of crazy. It's not a fair shake where you go there, you show up, and the tickets are the same. The dynamic models, which you see if you're an Uber user, if a lot of people are leaving a concert, leaving the venue, then it costs more money to get more stuff. It's more of a it's pricing. This causing it's price and cause and demand. It is price of the markets, things like that. Those words that I can't say today. But by opting for a more straightforward pricing strategy, Oasis aims to make its concerts more accessible and more affordable to a broader audience. They want all the people who love some Oasis or just want to see a fight on stage to show up for the band, not just ticket scalpers and robots that are going to be ticket scalpers eventually. The frustration with the dynamic pricing and why people hate Ticketmaster is a main reason why concerts kind of suck these days. So we're going to see how Oasis does if they actually have concerts. I'm saying ain't no way. My money's down on it not happening. Let's go to a sad story that gets even sadder because as much as I say I'm doing this for better journalism, I should have put two and two together and did this for better journalism. And this is really sad because I've met the man about 20 years ago, about 30 years ago, I think. Yeah, I'm getting kind of old. He did a play in Little Rock during the time when Halley's Comet was coming through. He did a play called Halley's Comet, where he was a man who basically saw he was an old man waiting to see Halley's Comet a second time and went back to tell a story on ancestors. And it was a great one-man show. It was beautiful. At the end, it was a small theater. He sat and chat with the audience. It was a great time to be had. And so knowing an actor who did stuff like that is amazing. And knowing John Amos for all the stuff he did and all the things, all the accolades people gave of him is good as well. So we are mourning the loss of the actor known to play the older Kunta Kinte in Roots, and of course the dad in Good Times, and playing a general in the iconic role as well for the West Wing, being able to show a well-rounded range of positive characters. One of my favorite roles of his was in a really bad B movie, prison movie, where it was on a prison island and he was like one of the bad guys and he survived somehow and was with the good guys at the end. That's a whole nother sidebar. But here's the problem. We heard of John Amos's passing at the age of 84. And I posted this on my personal Facebook, because essentially the last couple of days we've had a lot of big losses. And then my cousin posted that, like, I heard something like he died a couple months ago, because he did. Months passed. We actually had stories on John Amos being a subject of elder abuse and being a subject of issues like that. And we talked about that. I remember that distinctly after I got reminded that he probably passed away months ago. His actual day that he passed was August 21st. And we're just now hearing about it October the 1st. It's ridiculous on that end. This is a guy who did good stuff, and nobody seems to not like him going forward. But for some reason, he had to deal with the elder abuse. That was tragic. We had stories on that going forward. But his sons basically said, no, he died months ago. It's been 6 weeks. We're just now getting the word out. It's kind of weird, but it's what's going on. And that's just the sad part about this. Much love to the family, except the ones that may not be treating their father very well, and just the loss going forward. It's been a heavy week. It's Wednesday, and we've had 3 days worth of memorials going back from last Friday all the way through yesterday, Tuesday. We'll see what happens as 2024 is trying to round out, or at least the fourth quarter, trying to show that, Father Time, always undefeated, can't be beat. And finally, I'm not sure if this is a correction. It is a bit of mea culpa, because we had the story that went viral yesterday on Taylor Swift's guitar. The tears on Taylor Swift's guitar from the man who smashed it after paying $4,000 for it in an auction. Update. Breaking news. Developing story. Live as it happens. Well, not really. The Taylor Swift guitar that was smashed by the man paying $4,000 for it was not autographed by the singer. So the man went viral for paying $4,000 for a guitar that was allegedly signed by Taylor Swift during a charity auction in Texas. To shock the audience, man just ruled out a hammer as soon as he bought it and smashed it to pieces. However, the guitar was not actually autographed by Taylor Swift, but just inspired because it was designed and decorated just like off of Eras tour. It was signed before the event, but sources clarified later it wasn't autographed by Swift herself. I'm not sure who would sign it that makes it worth anything, but yeah. The motivations for the man destroying the guitar are not still kind of iffy, especially after paying $4,000 for it. But hey, apparently retirement is great for this guy, and he's got the cash to blow. So what the hell? He got internet. He's got a viral moment. Good for the dude. Good for the dude. Good for us is our teaser stories, our stories where we get a chance to talk about how things work for the Conversation Project. And this one, not so great for Donald Trump, but we're going to see how it works for us in conversation. Now, as we said earlier, the debate last night was probably the final debate of the season, as normally there are 3 debates or like one more coming up. But the presidential candidates, former president and vice president current, decided they don't want to, or at least one of them doesn't want to debate. However, 60 Minutes was able to sync up one last deal, one last go around where they're going to have some basically dueling interviews. They would be one interview with Trump, one interview with Harris, and they'd run them on the same night back to back and see what you thought about it. However, headline we're teasing right now coming out of Benzinga because it's about the money. Trump backs out of planned 60 Minutes interview. Ex-president's campaign says CBS asked for unprecedented live fact checking. Essentially, CBS wanted us to basically call out his lies in the middle of the interview, and Trump said, nope, I'm out of here. Will Harris still do hers? Will they still want to do hers? Probably so, but as it looks like right now, the side-by-side or play after play version of these interviews on 60 Minutes ain't going to happen. And it may have something to do with actually the debate last night. We'll see. Do you want to talk about Trump not debating his rival in interviews, or not debating his rivals at all, or just sort of petering out in the campaign? We'll see how this works out campaign-wise, but we'll see how this works out for this story, because we need your help for this one. We need you to do some work. Go to our feeds on Facebook, on X, on Threads, threads.net/@ this is conversation, x.com/th_conversation, and facebook.com/this is conversation project. Follow us on our feeds, subscribe there, and as you'll see, every 50 minutes or so, we post news articles from various sources. We need you to just engage in them. Tell us which stories are worthy of doing it. It's you and the internet telling us which stories are bouncing around in your head that you want to talk about, and we talk about them. On Tuesday through Friday, we'll take the top half of stories, basically about 30 stories in a 30-hour time period. And then we will pull a half of those, about 15 or so, and pull 8 of them into the feed here for your news engaging pleasure, I guess. On Fridays, we get 10 stories. We have a whole weekend's worth of stories to get to, so a few more stories in the queue. And it's that simple. Like it, love it, hate it, share it, engage in it, read it. The more engagement story gets, the better chance you have to talk about it. Yesterday, like I said earlier when we talked about Morgan Nick, Arkansas is suing YouTube over claims the site is fueling a mental health crisis in children specifically and all of us in general. We didn't talk about that one. Look that one up. Do your own research. If it becomes a larger suit, we'll probably bring it back up again. We're going to talk about our sponsor for today. Our sponsor for today happens to be Zenni Optical. And Zenni Optical is doing something really cool right now. Number one, they have free shipping for brand new customers. So if you're just a new customer, go there, free shipping on great glasses. Well, and number 3, although I said 2, because they're always there. They're always giving great eyewear for everyone. Great low price eyewear, great frames, great lenses. Don't cost a lot of money. Take care of all the family, especially if you're like me when I was a kid and I kept breaking glasses. My parents could have used this a lot. Or you're like me now and I keep losing glasses. I have multiple pairs and bought the same inexpensive pair of glasses. I'll say inexpensive, not say cheap. The same frames, same different lenses going back and forth, and the same frames with different color for sunglasses for over a decade. But guess what? Zenni Optical now has a rewards system, now has a way to earn points on your multiple choices because you're going to keep buying from them. And if you join today, 30% off Pete's Coffee. Great coffee at a greater price, 30% off, while you get great glasses at a great price, pretty much inexpensive. You can't beat that. You can't beat that. No, you can't beat that. So don't try. Stop by our link so you can get us a little bit of love because we get a small commission for you stopping in the door for us opening it for you. At this is a conversationproject.com/Zenni. This It's theconversationproject.com/Zenny for Zenny Optical. Get your eyes taken good care of. Get good coffee in the process. And brand new, if you're a brand new subscriber, brand new user, brand new shopper, free shipping right off the bat. It's there. It's done. Check it out at our page so we get a small commission. This is theconversationproject.com. So that's Zenny. And enjoy your eyes and enjoy your coffee. Both enjoyable things to have. Let's get on to the Conversation Project and the bragging part, because this is where we brag on ourselves. Yay, us. Conversation Project is all about conversations. It's about news stories and interesting things to talk about, so which is why we present to you the stories all day long so that you can tell us what stories are worthy of chatting up. It's how that works. All you need to do is follow us on our feeds. That's important. And tell those stories to talk about. There's other things you do to keep us afloat. Stop by the website and learn about those things. Learn about us, our origin stories there. Plus, the sponsors links and the partnership links if you want to partner up and directly help fund the effort here. Also, links to everything you can do to find us. Everywhere we're to be found is there. Now, the most important things you can do is, of course, follow us on the feeds. That costs you nothing but some time, and you're already checking out those sites anyway. So that's why work it that way. It's sites you're already checking out, engaging in. Plus, email us. Email is free. Email the show. Email me. Send your comments, concerns, and complaints to the conversation inbox at gmail.com. It doesn't take any money. The sponsors do have more or less a direct link to me to give feedback, and they usually get a shot at things going forward. But you don't have to be a paying member to offer any advice, any ideas, any complaints. Send them to me via email. We'll read them all, take them all into consideration. It is that simple. It's just like that. And just like that, we wrapped up a Wednesday edition of Things You Might Not Have Heard. Coming up in just a moment on the live feed, if you're watching this live, we'll pop up with things you might ought to know, which is the fun stuff, birthdays, days in history, this day in history, and of course, fun things to celebrate. So that's coming as well. If you still want some of that stuff, great. If all you wanted was the news, we have completed our mission. Thank you so much for being a part of the show. Consider being a partner. Consider stopping by sponsors. Make sure you follow the feeds, because that's how we get news into these things. Love you so much. Mean it so much. Thank you so much for being a part of everything we do here. Tomorrow, around this time, we'll have you another set of stuff. So if you're watching on the replay, watching that save stuff, it's whenever you feel like it. Otherwise, see me about 5:30 in the morning, tomorrow morning. It's 5:30 Central Time for another edition of Things You Might Not Have Heard.